Hello, guys. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Rajput, we can start with the webinar.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session on the role of nutrients in PCOS. Previously, we have seen the role of non-androgenic factors in hair loss. Then we have seen the increasing similarities between scarring and non-scarring alopecias. So we are understanding the pathological process or the changes going on in the body at the cellular level, which are leading to hair loss and the outcome, and how they share common mechanisms with each other. So one more such condition that we commonly come across is PCOS associated with hair loss. Let's see how is the mechanism behind PCOS and hair loss sharing events in common, and how we can counter these by using nutrients. So PCOS is defined as a clinical combination of menstrual disorder, secondary amenorrhea, hormonal imbalance, infertility, acne, obesity, hirsutism, and hair loss, all these being in varying degrees. And just as we had discussed earlier, the incidence of PCOS in our younger population, in young girls, is rising today. Is rising because of exponential exposure to rising levels of pollution, to rising levels of chemicals adulterated in the food, falling nutritive value of the foods, increased stress, environmental conditions, disturbed sleep cycles, exposure to bright screens after sunset, which is altering the circadian rhythm. So many factors. We will consider the facts one by one. Health is a balance between the function of the cells and the environment. There is one environment inside us which we call as the microcosm, which relates with the internal cellular function, and the environment in the extracellular matrix. So the environment inside the cell and outside the cell, which is our internal homeostasis or internal body environment. Next is the macrocosm, which is the environment of our body reacting with the external climatic conditions and the situations around us. This including environmental factors, pollution, lifestyle, diet, nutrition, stress, chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, endocrine disrupting chemicals, circadian rhythm, sleep, immunity, allergies. So this is the external environment. Interaction between these environments determines your health and the way the cells function, and the way the cells have to compromise their normal function. There are cells and systems in the body which will compromise function to make sure vital functions continue to be normal. The body has a balance between the male and female elements. All female bodies secrete small amounts of testosterone. All male bodies secrete small amounts of estrogen. It's the yin and yang factor. Nowadays, as females have started taking up more responsible roles in society, physical exertion, gymming, workout, stress, smoking, alcohol, recreational requirements, this is gradually increasing the amount of male hormone secreted in the female body as well. Could be one of the contributing factors that we are frequently getting imbalances. PCOS has been reported with or without rise in androgens, with or without ovarian cysts, with or without menstrual disturbances, without obesity, without acne, and even without hair loss. It's a multifactorial condition caused by altered metabolism. They will be surprised that PCOS shares a common gene allele with male pattern hair loss. So PCOS is the female manifestation of male pattern hair loss, or you can say male pattern hair loss is the male manifestation of PCOS. Now this study was reported in 1993 and again in 1994 that polycystic ovaries and premature male pattern hair loss are associated with one allele of the steroid metabolism gene, the CYP17. Which confirmed that polycystic ovarian disease is inherent of PCOS. PCOS results from upstream endocrine and metabolic differences rather than any deficit happening in the ovarial function themselves. This aberration, therefore, can also occur in men. Very frequently, male relatives of a PCOS female are seen to suffer from insulin resistance, obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. We know that male androgenetic alopecia has comorbidities, which are metabolic syndrome, higher incidence of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and diabetes. Similar as well. So early onset male pattern hair loss with excessive body hair should be subjected to investigations. And what investigations would you like to do? The fasting blood sugar level, insulin levels, glucose tolerance test, free testosterone. There is also a free androgen index that can be studied. Luteinizing hormone prolactin, evaluation for dyslipidemias. So these can be done as a caution. Comparison of the hormonal profile in androgenetic alopecia men with an equivalent phenotype of PCOD have been done in detail and published in 2016. Ovarian and extra-ovarian mediators of PCOS have been identified recently in 2018. So the male PCOS equivalent is finally now in 2019 being suggested to be controlled by nutritional restriction, which is a step forward. The title of the publication itself is Male PCOS Equivalent and Nutritional Restriction. Are we stepping forward? So we have come to an understanding that these variations can be controlled by nutrition. There are various phenotypes of PCOS. The European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology, along with the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, has identified 4 different phenotypes of PCOS. Type A has got all the 3 traits: the oligoanovulation, hyperandrogenism, and polycystic ovary. Type B has oligo or anovulation with hyperandrogenism, but no polycystic ovaries. You can have PCOS without any polycystic ovary. Type C is hyperandrogenism and polycystic ovary without oligoanovulation. So no changes in menstrual cycles, despite there being a polycystic ovary and hyperandrogenism in this type. Type D is oligoenovulation and polycystic ovary without any hyperandrogenism. So having hyperandrogenism doesn't mean you could or you could not have PCOS. In type D, you have got menstrual disturbances and polycystic ovaries, but you don't have any rise in androgens. So the phenotypes A and B have high BMI, obesity, and hyperandrogenemia. Phenotype C will have high testosterone levels despite there being no disturbances in ovulation. Phenotype ABC have got a lower risk of metabolic syndrome as compared to type D. There is also a defined role of TGF beta in polycystic ovarian syndrome. TGF beta is our friend from male androgenetic alopecia or male pattern hair loss, where the action of DHT is mediated through TGF beta. DHT does not directly cause miniaturization of the follicles. DHT releases TGF beta, which causes miniaturization of the follicle mediated through ROS, or the free radicals reactive oxygen species are responsible for this release. A cross-sectional comparison of clinical and endocrine parameters among phenotypes has been published in 2008. So with all this data at hand, we are finding similarities between main pattern hair loss and PCOS. And we are coming to newer ways of how easily these can be controlled and the complications or further advanced progress be prevented. Studies on environmental and lifestyle factors, endocrine disruptors, and polycystic ovarian disease are very close. The main endocrine disruptor for polycystic ovarian syndrome responsible is bisphenol A. Very commonly detected, very commonly found in multiple disease conditions. A part of the molecule of these endocrine disruptors behaves like a hormone in the body or binds the hormone receptor and creates resultant action like the hormone in the body. Bisphenol A is ingested through plastics, through plastic wrappings, and through certain kinds of organic foods. The phenotype and environmental factors influencing PCOS were studied in 2011, again updated in 2012. The information we have leads us to believe that early life exposure to the environmental and lifestyle factors or the insults can affect in childhood, early life exposure can affect the phenotype or the outcome of PCOS at adulthood or at maturity. Amongst these factors of concern are overnutrition, advanced glycated end products, and there is a continuous crosstalk between the metabolic systems and the reproductive systems, which has been noted in this study, and which is the basis of this reflection of early lifestyle, early life or childhood lifestyle and diet habits reflecting on PCOS in their adulthood. The action on metabolic functions, inflammatory pathways, low-grade chronic inflammation, and androgen production are affected by these factors. By bisphenol A, mean. Bisphenol A acts on the liver-spleen axis of a person. Potential role of bisphenol A in PCOS is to this extent that if a mother is exposed to bisphenol A and the environmental or external lifestyle factors, this liability or the higher predisposition of PCOS due to this exposure can be transferred to the offspring. So the BPA molecular structure binds, reacts with estrogen receptors, leading to hyperandrogenism, hyperinsulinemia, and BPA can be detected in the body fluids of these patients. You can detect increased excretion of BPA in the urine as well. Environmental determinants of polycystic ovarian syndrome have been enumerated in a study in 2016. Some researchers have also called them environmental toxins. Reprogramming of immune cells in PCOS has been studied and documented, published in 2019 recently. The reprogramming of this is happening from exposure to environmental, lifestyle, diet, and epigenetic factors. What about studies on the mechanism of oxidation and insulin resistance? So we find that more than blaming the androgens for PCOS, the oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance are the mechanisms that cause the PCOS. Because PCOS can happen with normal androgen levels. So it's difficult to only blame the androgens all the time. And using anti-androgens does not always give you results. So what is the background mechanism running behind this? Indices of low-grade chronic inflammation are elevated in PCOS. This we knew in 2006. Hyperandrogenism sensitizes leukocytes or white blood cells to hyperglycemia, promoting oxidative stress, which can be documented by studying the white blood cells in the blood. This was done in 2012. The role of low-grade inflammation was practically established by 2011-2012. Studies defined the underpinning of insulin resistance and ovarian dysfunction in PCOS. Circulating markers of oxidative stress were detected in PCOS. An association between abdominal obesity, insulin resistance, and oxidative stress was established through studies in 2014. Infertility, insulin resistance, and oxidative stress were again linked in 2015. So just the basic mechanism of oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance are causing so many dysfunctions in the body without the direct role of androgens. So every time we see PCOS, we don't have to think about fighting it with androgens. We have to think about how we can set the functioning of the cells right at the cellular levels to make the system work better. Studies on diet and lifestyle. Restoration of reproductive potential by lifestyle modification has been published as early as 1999. In PCOS, you could restore potential of and from the ovaries just by lifestyle and diet modification. Optimal diet for PCOS has been described multiple times, 2005, 2006, 2007. The role of physical activity, diet, sedentary behavior, and maintaining your body mass index has been emphasized. The use of nutrients as novel therapeutic approach for metabolic disturbances in PCOS has been expressed in 2016. Weight management practices have been stressed. So diet and lifestyle modification are the front line of treatment for PCOS as the present guideline stands. Diet low in saturated fat, high in fiber, and having low glycemic index along with regular exercise has been advised. The aim of this, having low saturated fat in the diet, is to allow you in management of your obesity and weight control. Omega-3 is beneficial for your body. You can have it once or twice a week. You shouldn't be having it every day, every time. So the diet restriction is mainly aiming at maintaining your BMI. Role of soya isoflavones has also been recorded as benefiting in polycystic ovarian syndrome. What about nutritional deficiencies actually being detected in PCOS patients? Are there nutritional deficiencies that these patients are suffering? So deficiency of vitamin C, vitamin D, B12, folic acid, calcium, potassium, magnesium, zinc have been noted in PCOS. As early as 2007, we have a paper on relation of nutrients and hormones in polycystic ovarian syndrome. Diet and nutrition pointers for nutritional management in PCOS, published 2007. Relationship between serum leptin, ghrelin, and dietary micronutrients in PCOS, published 2015. So these are your satiety hormones and your hunger hormones, which has been related to dietary micronutrients and PCOS. Quantitative assessment of nutrition in patients with PCOS, published 2016. Nutritional management of PCOS 2017. Association of hypovitaminosis D and metabolic disturbances in PCOS, recorded as early as 2009. And vitamin D associated polymorphism related to insulin resistance and vitamin D deficiency in PCOS, recorded in 2011. So we have several known nutritional deficiencies in PCOS, and we also have benefit clinically by correcting these nutritional deficiencies. Myo-inositol and D-chiroinositol are one of the mainstay for the nutritional management of PCOS. Now, omega-3 taken in excess causes lipid peroxidation and creates oxidative stress from lipid peroxidation. So any nutrient used in excess is not individually beneficial. The benefit of the nutrient and the nutrient turning into reversal of the benefit is a very narrow margin. So we recommend all nutrients in different doses and not excess of any one nutrient. I was answering a question on why omega-3 should be only once or twice a week. Why shouldn't we take like 1000 milligram omega-3 2 times a day for PCOS? Not the right thing to do, not according to what we decipher or we conclude from our research reviews. So myo-inositol and D-chiroinositol improve insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism in PCOS. Inositols are 6-carbon compounds classified as insulin sensitizing agents naturally found in foods, fruits, and beans. Myo-inositol promotes glucose uptake, improves follicle stimulating hormone signaling in ovaries, improves glycogen synthesis in liver, reduces hyperandrogenism, dyslipidemias, and reduces plasma insulin levels. So it has got multiple benefits on all the three mechanisms of PCOS, which is the hyperandrogenism, the insulinemia or insulin resistance, and inflammation. Inositol could reduce oxidative stress in erythrocytes or red blood cells in patients of PCOS. This has been recorded. So you can study how it works and shows the reduction of oxidative stress in erythrocytes. There have been randomized controlled trials on myo-inositol. Combination of myo-inositol and D-chiroinositol in the correct proportion give the best benefit, as recorded in 2014 and again in 2015. So these are two very useful naturally occurring organic compounds that we can use in our medical management of PCOS. Benefits from zinc, calcium, vitamin D, and other nutrients. Zinc can boost fertility, build up the immune system, get rid of unwanted hair, and also improve hair growth on the scalp. So it's got multiple benefits at different levels. Effect of zinc supplementation on markers of insulin resistance, lipid profiles in PCOS have been studied with a randomized, double-blind, or placebo-controlled trial. These are the kind of trials that we want to see. These trials are randomized, they are double blind, so the patient or the doctor do not know whether they are getting the real medicine or they are getting a sugar pill. They are placebo controlled. So some patients are not getting the medicine at all. So you cannot have a benefit in these people. So you rule out the biased opinion. Vitamin D levels in PCOS have been analyzed to be low and benefit shown to be gained by having vitamin D supplements. Calcium and vitamin D supplements influence biomarkers of inflammation, oxidative stress, benefit patients who are overweight. This has been confirmed by a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial in 2015. Vitamin D reduces fasting glucose levels, reduces the C-peptide, the triglyceride levels, reduces interval between menstrual cycles, so helps the regulation of the ovulation, also reduces TGF-beta, and TGF-beta has a role in thickening of the polycystic ovarian cyst capsules. So apart from the action of interfering with androgen DHT, it also prevents the thickening of the capsules when you use vitamin D to counter TGF-beta. Zinc, magnesium, coenzyme Q10, omega-3 reduce oxidative stress, improve insulin resistance, and lower androgen levels. They downregulate gene expression of interleukin 1, interleukin 8, TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha, reduce free testosterone, improve the C-reactive protein, reduce inflammation, and control hirsutism. What else do you want? So these many different kinds of benefits you can have by using zinc, magnesium, coenzyme Q10, and omega-3. So coenzyme Q10 supplements and their effect on gene expression, insulin, lipid, metabolism, and inflammation studied in 2018. Magnesium and zinc co-supplementation, reducing biomarkers of inflammation and oxidative stress and gene expression. Randomized controlled clinical trial, again in 2018. Omega-3 fatty acids, selenium, zinc, improving glucose metabolism, control of fasting glucose levels, and reducing insulin levels, study conducted again in 2017. Omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin E co-supplementation, improving gene expression of the lipoprotein and low density lipoprotein lipid profiles, studies done in 2017. Effect of fish oil on gene expression documented in 2018. Cod liver oil has been mentioned in one of these studies to be highly beneficial because it contains vitamin D, vitamin A, as well as high amounts of omega-3, helps to improve menstrual regularity and get rid of fat around the waist. So we never used it because we use these nutrients individually, not in combination. But this benefit of cod liver oil has been recorded. Selenium, folate, and antioxidants have their own benefits in management of PCOS. Metabolic response to selenium supplementation in women, studied as a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial in 2015. Metabolic response to folate supplementation in overweight women with PCOS, again studied as a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial in 2014. Nutrients build up the immune system, they counter inflammation, they restore cellular function, supporting overall functional recovery, better health, wellness, and better functioning of the body systems. Antioxidant supplementation improves insulin sensitivity in management of PCOS. Study on role of oxidative stress in PCOS was confirmed as early as 2010. Antioxidants and management of PCOS, a detailed study done, published in 2015. Oxidative stress and antioxidant supplements, again studied and published in 2018. So all these nutrients, antioxidants, folate or vitamin B9, selenium, omega-3, coenzyme Q10, magnesium, zinc, chromium, myoinositol have got definitive roles to play in management of PCOS. Now, the latest addition to these benefits is harvesting the benefits of colostrum and lactoferrin. Polycystic ovarian syndrome has been suspected to be an autoimmune disorder as per studies conducted in 2016. Be associated with autoimmune thyroiditis also and some other autoimmune problems also. We are not getting into those connections at this webinar today. Low levels of progesterone in PCOS are suspicious to cause overstimulation of the immune system to produce more estrogen, which leads to various antibody formation. So in PCOS, you can find antinuclear antibody, antithyroid antibody, anti-spermatic antibody, anti-Smith antibodies, antihistones, anti-carbonic anhydrase, anti-ovarian, and even anti-islet cell antibodies have been recorded. High sensitivity C-reactive protein levels and relationship to PCOS have been studied in 2014. Effects of bovine colostrum or immunoglobulins on immune function, allergy, and infection have been recorded in 2018. The immune boosting effect of colostrum comes from very good content of magnesium, B complex vitamins, vitamin A, C, E, growth factors, insulin-like growth factor 1 and 2, and immunoglobulins IgA, IgG, IgM. These are available ready-made for the body when near cholesterol. Lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is a modulator of immune and inflammatory response. Lactoferrin has been studied in the context of inflammation and induced pathology in 2017. Lactoferrin exerts protective effect by regulation of enzyme activities, reactive oxygen species, controlling the production of reactive oxygen species, immunity, prevention of cell apoptosis, and restoring homeostasis. Also attenuates inflammatory response. All these activities are important in limiting the pathological damage and what is happening to the system due to the imbalance existing in conditions like PCOS. So lactoferrin, a natural glycoprotein involved in iron and inflammatory homeostasis, is an extensive review published in 2017. So people who are unable to stabilize their iron levels or unable to tolerate oral iron will do excellent to tolerate lactoferrin, which is as good as nearly pre-digested form and can help you in maintaining iron levels and homeostasis. So these are the various nutrients that we have reviewed. Now you realize that when you want to treat PCOS or any such condition, one single nutrient cannot be relied upon to carry out all the benefits. You require a group of nutrients which are comprehensively Lactoferrin is derived from milk, but there is no source. It is a concentrated derivative of milk. So if you drink, you will have to drink a few liters of milk to get some milligrams of lactoferrin. So unfortunately, there is no natural source for this. People who are lactose intolerant can also use lactoferrin because the lactose part has been removed from this component much before it is concentrated into lactoferrin. So multiple nutrients are required. You cannot use multiple nutrients together. You cannot just dump them on the cells and tell the cell, okay, come on, use whatever you like. The cell cannot do that. Your cell is already weak. The functions in the cells are going slow. These nutrients interact with each other. They reduce the efficiency of one another. So we have studied the nutrients. We have created a program in which we give synergistic combinations on different days. Avoid the antagonistic combinations to be given on the same day, and create a program which can regulate. So following this program can give you reliable or consistent benefits in management of PCOS. Now, if free testosterone levels are high, and if there are no menstrual disturbances, there is no need to counter the testosterone or the androgen. Whatever levels we have of hormones in the body, we know it just by law of averages. I always give an example. Say if your blood sugar should be 80 to 120. It's not written in the Bible or in the Gita that human body was made and sugar should be 80 or 120. We found it out by doing tests for 10,000 people, and we came to an average range between 80 to 120 where nobody has any symptoms. For some person, 70 might be normal. For some person, 130 might be normal. So you need clinical correlation with these levels and to be interpreted before you can jump out and try to do something. Always good to set right the basic functioning of the human body or basic functioning of your cells, the internal cellular environment and the cell systems, before you want to treat something with a drug. Patients will not respond to the drug unless the cell is properly charged and your cellular platform or the basic function in the body is correct. So give 1.5 to 2 months of time to follow a good nutritional program. Get commitment from your patient. Follow our pre-planned